Namaskar and a very warm welcome to this special program on water conservation. Sustainable water management is so very important for a healthy planet Earth. CII, that's the Confederation of Indian Industry, organized the Water Innovation Summit 2019 in New Delhi. That saw participation of different stakeholders. And now in this segment, to help us understand the role of industry towards water management, we are joined by Sri Dhruv Shawnee, past President CII and Chairman CII Triveni Water Institute. Sir, a very warm welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, help us understand how conscious has industry become towards sustainable water management?
Industry has become more cognizant, but really not enough is being done. The problems are quite deep, and the time for action is really today. So maybe in the Water Institute, the CII Triveni Water Institute, our feeling is that we should move faster. But I think the start is being made, and programs such as what Doordarshan is having are extremely useful in communicating the message of what we need to do in a very simplistic manner. Not just for large industries, it's small, medium, public sector, private sector, they all have to join in moving today for both water conservation and also technologies to consume less water.
So, Mr. Shawnee, as someone who's provided leadership for the cause of water over decades, let me understand different dimensions of water management one by one. We often hear about carbon footprints these days. Is industry also talking about water footprint now, and help viewers of Doordarshan understand what is water footprint?
There are two parts that industry has to look at in water management. One is inside the fence, that is within the factory. But industry has to go beyond the fence. It has to actually go to the communities around it, because a factory or an industry can be affected with a water problem outside its gate. So this concept has to be there, that we can't look to the state government always or to the central government. The industry must look at water management, water practices, both inside the fence and beyond the fence.
But beyond the fence, does it make a business case for a corporate?
That's one of the key points, and I'm glad you brought it up, that we are bringing up. We say that water management makes business sense. It's not doing it as a social purpose, and it makes business sense, and you cannot afford not to do it for all your stakeholders.
But how do I read, say, the economic value of a natural resource like water on a balance sheet or a P&L?
Now, I'm coming to that. Now, one of the things is that water has not had the same awareness as power or electricity. You know, we have to publish in our annual reports how much you are saving in electricity, what sort of electricity devices. So one of the things that the Water Institute is done is we are propagating to government to have some form of disclosures of companies as to what they have done in the last year in various regulated areas. Now today we are having, besides the Innovation Summit, water awards. We have Dr. Kakoskar, who's chairman of our jury, and I believe that the level of awards this year, the standard has gone up, and we are giving it to small, medium and large scale industry for work done inside the fence and beyond the fence.
Share with us some success stories. What kind of innovations in water have happened so far that gladdens your heart?
Well, you know, there are a variety of from a small farmer who has looked at, and these innovations don't have to be very expensive, from the right place to put a check dam to using a cropping pattern that is less water intensive, to having places to gather water which are well preserved, and actually to going all the way. Some farmers, and we deal with quite a lot of farmers as a company, they are now encouraging the usage of seeds in crops that will require less water. Israel has done a lot of work in this area, and we are on dialogue with many countries. So we have to look at this as a holistic problem. We have to give technologies to the farmer in terms of where the interventions will be. And this is one of the key things in the Water Institute, is that where can the small farmer, how can you help him to save water and also have not much sewage around in the villages. You know, these are twin problems.
So when we talk about the sewage and treating the wastewater, we have some traditional technologies, but in this new era, are there any new technologies that you would like to apprise our viewers?
Absolutely. Some of the technologies, we are participating in them, MBBR. We are able to now convert wastewater into better than drinking quality water.
At affordable cost?
At an affordable cost. And so what we are now doing to companies must be zero discharge. That means they should not discharge anything.
Okay.
So whatever the sewage should be recycled back. And you should be getting a recognition for having zero discharge.
So earlier, like you mentioned, disclosure in annual report. This could be one disclosure?
We should give awards to people to move towards this.
Yes.
So most people should become that. And the technologies are all there. And it makes sense for two reasons. One is that for industry and even for consumers, we have to change the whole concept of water pricing. That if you use a little bit of water, then don't charge much. But if you use too much water, then like in electricity, you get charged, so it's a disincentive. Now, in that, the Triveni, the Water Institute has done 175 audits, water audits. These water audits have saved about 150 billion liters of water. That's almost 2 days' supply to the whole rural population of India. And the water audits have a return for the person who's given us the job of less than a year. So they get their money back in less than a year. So now, you need technologies, and these are very simple technologies, of where you can save. The small places to save water add up. But it's really a mind shift change that we are wanting to bring about.
So who's qualified to conduct a water audit, say for a corporate?
We as a Water Institute have a very experienced water auditors. It's we go through a training program to train the auditors.
Are these environmentalists?
They are environmentalists, they are scientists, they are engineers, and we have a lot of instrumentation. So it's not expensive, but you have instrumentation and you have a lot of site work. The second thing is that not only are you doing an audit, you are saying how best they can proceed further, i.e. what should they implement, how should they and then we like to do a follow-up so that we can see how much they have achieved.
Well, Dhruv Shrawny, I was hearing your speech earlier in the day at the summit, and you mentioned a very important factor that differentiates carbon footprint and water print, where you said that carbon sequestration happens, but unlike that process, water has to go back to the aquifer. How do we understand that?
Groundwater, underground water, if you do not recharge it, if it gets depleted, that's what happens with called water stress. And almost 30% of India has now water stress.
Which means we have less groundwater.
Groundwater has got so badly depleted that even though the rainfall is there, you may never be able to fully replenish it.
Now, where does the water go then?
The water can go to places where there's evaporation. The technology of the tool that is right behind you, WatScan, is there to do a scientific database survey of the aquifers and the underground water as to where are the pockets of water and where are they not, so that you can direct the water flows into the areas where water is needed, so that the check dams are not put in the wrong place. We have gone to many places and found that 30 or 40% of the check dams in the village have been put in the wrong place.
So who will guide them? How will you get in touch with Gram Panchayats? Will you use space technology for that?
This tool that we have called WatScan does exactly that. We are using public data on weather patterns over 35 years, land use patterns, rainfall patterns over 50 years, and we are using foreign public data from NASA, geospatial data, and it's quite cheap because today, the technologies and innovation in India have brought the cost down radically. And we are able to do this from a panchayat level onwards. So we've done it in Aurangabad and some MLA constituencies elsewhere. And we've proven that this is the place where you need to put the check dams the most crucial are here first, then here, then here. So our idea in WhatScan in the Water Institute is how do you get the maximum impact with limited resources.
तो ग्राम पंचायत की अगर बात करें, खासतौर पर अगर किसान मित्र इस समय आपको सुन रहे हैं, तो शौनी साहब आप कैसे उन्हें गाइड करेंगे कि चेक डैम का निर्माण करने से पहले किन बातों का ध्यान रखें?
सबसे पहली चीज़ है कि सर्वे होना पड़ेगा. They have to do a proper scientific survey, and it can be done from a farm level, small farm level, as to what is happening underground and what should be the locations of these interventions from check dams, etc.
So survey of the available water resources?
Of the terrain and the available water resources, exactly.
So that's the first step.
That's the first step. Then you tell them that which are the ones that you need to do first. Suppose the allocation is 5 lakhs of rupees for the year, or 20 lakhs of rupees. Where best to spend the 20 lakhs so that the impact is in the next year?
Okay.
You see, so everyone has a scarcity of funds. And this is non-political because we are going purely by data. So it is not that we are going to concentrate on one area or another area first. So we are saying that this is a very transparent, completely transparent way of rectifying the problem.
So let me ask you now about agriculture. Usually we say when it comes to prioritizing water needs, agriculture takes the first priority, perhaps industry comes after that.
No.
Okay.
Over 80%, maybe 85% of the water in India is used by agriculture.
Okay.
And the next is the consumers and the municipalities. Third is industry.
Agriculture, municipality, industry.
Industry. So industry gets about 7% maximum. So I tell our colleagues in CII and industry that if you don't do something, your water will be turned off.
Is there a supply issue more with the industry or the demand issue?
Both. The supply issue is getting worse and worse. You have many industries which are coming up which have to have desalination. So their capital cost is going up. Their running cost of energy costs are going up because they have no water.
But has the industry increasingly got conscious that they should reduce, at least minimize, fresh water usage and wherever possible use treated wastewater?
We feel the system of incentives and disincentives needs to be relooked at. The people who are using less water should be rewarded, and the people who are using unnecessary water should be made to pay a little more, because water is a common resource. You know, the concept that water, in my area there is water and that's my property, is something that we should not now keep thinking about. That's why I'm talking about going beyond the fence and not just that. It's industry's jobs to look at the community around, and they have also CSR resources, they have other. So both the panchayat levels and the towns and villages, the councils, they have to participate, and the industries which happen to be there. And these programs can be very quickly done.
So right now, what's the scenario with water pricing? Is the water being priced for the industry?
The water is being priced for the industry now. It's started to go up. But when we talk about industry, you have a host of small industry also.
Okay, the MSME sector.
Yeah, you know, India is really a country of entrepreneurs. So the small users are not priced at all, and the farmers' water is free. The farmers' concept of increasing yield by flooding the fields is something that we can't afford anymore. So the first thing is, through programs such as yours, which are extremely necessary today, are to say that, you know, this we cannot afford it in your interest, so that tomorrow you'll have a problem. Or definitely your children will have a problem, but you'll have a problem in growing the same crop.
So would you say then, as Prime Minister Modi envisages a new India, given that 85% water consumption goes to agriculture, should agriculture be now looked as an industry? Because now we have, say, an Indian accounting standard on agriculture. How do I, on a balance sheet, also map biological assets like a tree or a livestock? Similarly, whether it's water, energy, all of this should also be monitored, because only when I'm having some numbers against it can I say who has saved water, who hasn't.
I think that's a very good suggestion. We were also making the suggestions that the local leadership, both administratively and politically, local leadership should give encouragements in this direction. The second is that we should be able to help the farmer with funding in certain ways of whether it's water harvesting, drip irrigation, some check dams. You know, there is a technology in building a check dam. You should actually train the masons. You can have a 20%, 30% reduction in cost and efficiency in the way you make a check dam.
So would you then say we need a much stronger interface between agriculture industry so that these best practices can be shared with the farmers?
Well, it may be industry or with bodies such as institutes, you know, and government could facilitate that, because, you know, the small farmer, one who has half an hectare, he doesn't have the resource to go and do it. So he's not really, so we are quite happy to be you know, the facilitator. We are concentrating at the moment on our membership, which is the small and medium and large scale industries. We are hoping that our large industries takes the leadership in helping their suppliers become water compliant. So I think the message should be that everyone has to do small things. Now, another concept that we are saying that's not happening is that you take an industry, it looks at how it's going to save water. Why doesn't it give incentives for its employees to save water at home?
So what could possibly employees of an organization do towards water conservation?
Putting the tap off, how you wash the utensil. I mean, there are 100 things that could happen, you know. And when you're bathing and all sorts of things, little bit of technologies are needed in terms of the way the pipes are laid, the way the water is metered. We have to go in for metering.
Smart metering.
Well, smart is of course easy now, but it is to at least regulate how much you're doing, so that there is feedback to you that's what you're consuming. That's how you will save.
So the government of India has launched the Jal Jeevan Mission, and Prime Minister talks about Har Ghar Jal. How do we get?
So we are talking about the same thing, Har Ghar Jal.
Yeah. So how will industry support government's plan?
It's by doing work in the fence and beyond the fence. Precisely that. What I've been talking about up to now is these are the measures that industry must take.
And are you sensing synergies between stakeholders?
The synergies are inbuilt, because it's in a business interest of business to conserve water. It's not going to be there tomorrow if you don't save it today. And you need to do it outside your area, because if there's a drought outside, it affects you. If there is sewage lying outside, 70% of diseases are, 40% are waterborne, 70% of sewage is going into the rivers. It doesn't help anyone. So all your employees are getting ill now. This is a direct impact. So we have to consider it in that manner. We would look for programs such as what you're having to simplify these messages and let these messages then be taken up by the leaders, the rural leaders, and also by industry. So I think you have a dual, and so do we have a dual purpose to go to both areas simultaneously.
You know, one simplified message I heard at the summit itself, that water cannot be made or destroyed. It has to be managed. It's the same quantity of water humanity always had. It's about management of water.
Well, it may be the same quantity or less quantities. You know, we are. It's a shifting position. The one thing is there that we can't control this climate change that is happening. We can control it, but at the small level, we know it is happening, and we've allowed it to happen. But those are broader political concepts. What we can do is to mitigate the uncertainties involved. And for example, in the Water Institute, we mapped what will happen in the Gurgaon floods. And exactly that happened.
So we did plan it earlier.
No, we actually gave a plan that if you do these trenches here, then the water will go out. And unfortunately, they were not made. And so when the floods came, everything collected.
But we have the know-how and the technology to map the aquifers and everything.
Absolutely.
It's about acting now.
Absolutely. The technology is there and it's cheap. It's one of the cheapest in the world. The costs of what we're talking about from WattScan and others is very reasonable. You know, it's in lakhs of rupees. It's not in crores. And the implementation can be done gradually. So I think what we're really wanting is a little bit of a grassroots movement coming up where the farmers start asking their political leaders ki hamare liye kuch kariye.
In conclusion, Mr. Shawnee, just like in industry, we had GST implementation. Do you think that as far as the governance structures are concerned related to water management, it'll be nice to have something like a GST council where stakeholders could come and we could have a much seamless flow of water management strategy?
I feel in water we need a little better management at the grassroots farmer panchayat level. If we have to think of some innovative tools, because they are the people who are most effective, and if they can be given a voice, because it affects them every day.
Yes.
You know, those structures should only.
Absolutely. So in the end, my final question to you, even as we express our gratitude to farmers who all these years have been producing food for us, what is your advice or suggestion to the farmers watching the program today?
I will say, please go and tell your local leaders to help you to get this technology for your farm and tell you what you can do to save water.
And let's be optimistic. We have what it takes to manage water well.
Very good.
Absolutely. Well, on that optimistic note, Mr. Dhruv Shawnee, thank you so much for speaking with Doordarshan. Thank you.
you.
Thanks.